Howdy, howdy, carnivores. We got an awesome episode today. We have the real life carnivore, Coach Rochelle from the SPG gang with us today. Hi, Rochelle.
Hello, how's everyone doing? How are you today, Todd?
I am doing fantastic.
Awesome.
Thanks for
Super
coming
excited.
on. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Let's see here. Let some people start coming in, and then I'm going to go ahead and pull up a couple things. But how's your weekend going so far?
It's going well. It is sunny and 98 degrees in the shade here in Southeast Texas.
Oh man, that's fighting weather if you ask me.
Oh, I know. It's hot. It's hot. But actually, this summer is much cooler than last summer. We were like 110, 120 all summer with no breaks last year.
I don't even know. I mean, 120, that's like brisket cooking weather.
I know. All you had to do was put it on the sidewalk.
That is terrible. You must, I mean, do you just run from like out of the sun into the air conditioning everywhere you go?
Well, last year I was pregnant, so it was really difficult to be out. Like even going from like the house to my vehicle, I was like, this is awful. And I love the heat. I'm not a heat averter. I do enjoy the heat, but man, it was really hot. It was too hot.
Man, I can't imagine it. This is a pretty big heat wave for us when it's getting between like 95 and 100. And but last night it was 8:30 and it was still 92 degrees, and it just reminded me of Texas. And I was like, I don't know how they do this every day. This would drive me insane.
You kind of just get used to it. I think it's you just kind of, your body just kind of gets conditioned for it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's awesome. Let's see, we got some people rolling in here.
Very cool.
Good afternoon, Karen. Howdy, howdy. We appreciate you coming in. Let's see.
Look, my sister-in-law Gabrielle's here from Spain. Hey.
There you go.
So cool. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for joining us. All right. Well, let's get this kicked off, I suppose. You want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself, Rochelle?
Yeah. Okay. So my name is Rochelle. I am 36 years old. I am a wife. I am a Christian. I am a mama to a beautiful little boy. He is the sole reason why I went carnivore. I went carnivore on October 2nd, 2022. My husband had to twist my arm a little bit to get me to do it because I kind of thought it might be a little bit restrictive. But it actually turned out to be the best thing I've ever done for myself, health-wise and dietary-wise. And as a former competitive athlete at the national level in Canada, I did a lot of damage to my body, and I've done a lot of diets, and I've done a lot of things to get my body to look a certain way and perform a certain way. And this just changed my life. It completely changed my life. I heard Kelly Hogan's testimony that she was able to overcome infertility with a carnivore way of eating. And once I heard those words, after my husband and I received that diagnosis, I was like, I'm in. I'm all in. I'm all in. I will do what it takes. I'm all in. And so October 2nd, 2022, we kicked off our carnivore journey. And my husband is no longer carnivore. He stayed carnivore about 6 months, resolved the things that he wanted to resolve, including infertility and some chronic elbow pain. And I've never felt better. So I was like, why would I go back to how I felt before? Because I had tried a little bit of sugar. I think it was November, our first American Thanksgiving, because we live in the U.S. and we're currently living in the U.S. and we are actually Canadians. But I tried a little bit of sugar our first American Thanksgiving. So I'd only been carnivore maybe like 2 months, just about 2 months. And wow, did I have to pay for that. Like, I couldn't believe how bad my chronic arthritic neck pain got, and my digestion went in the toilet, literally.
Right.
And so, yeah, for me, it's just become a way of living. I don't really think about it. When I go places, I'm not ashamed of it. A lot of people will ask me questions about it, which I think is really cool. There seems to be a lot of curiosity around carnivore. Yes, there are still people who get super triggered by it and are not okay with it, and that's totally fine. I realize it's not for everyone, but it's changed my life. And I mean, the people that I've met through carnivore it's changed my life further, and I really think it's a God thing. So,
100%. Definitely agree with you there.
mhm.
So, what do you think? What do you think that the cause of infertility was before? Do you think it was kind of the vegan lifestyle, or what do you think that was spawning from?
That's a great question. I think there were a lot of factors. So, like I said, when I used to compete in figure category, which is like a tier in the bodybuilding world, I would get my body fat down to sub 12%, sometimes sub 10%. Not for an extended period of time, but it was long enough that uh, my body just started shutting down the endocrine system. You know, your reproductive hormones are the first thing to go when your body doesn't have enough fat to sustain to sustain them. So I think that was the first thing. I think the second thing was diet for sure. I didn't eat a standard American diet. I ate pretty clean. I was keto for the longest time, and I felt amazing keto. But I wrestled with a sugar and carb addiction. With my bodybuilding career, I also developed a restrictive binge eating disorder that most people didn't know that I had because I was able to maintain my physique. But people had no idea that I was literally chronically obsessed with food. Like I would be at work thinking about, okay, I can't wait to leave here and go here and like pick up this food and this food and this food and just like binge on it on my way home. But I never thought about it as binging. I was just like, I was hungry and I couldn't recognize hunger. I did try going vegetarian slash vegan. It didn't last very long. I thought it would help, and initially I had a couple of benefits, like I felt a little more clear headed and that sort of thing. And then all of a sudden my mood started tanking, my hormones started tanking, and I remember my husband encouraging me one day. He was like, "I think you should go back to eating meat," and I was like, "Why?" And he's like, "Because you were nicer when you ate meat." And so he was not wrong because I was a very, even when I compete, I was very protein focused, but not fat focused. Even keto, like, I ate a lot of nuts and stuff like that, but I didn't focus on like the right fats. So I think I had a lot of inflammation. In 2022, the spring of 2022, I was actually diagnosed with a benign pituitary tumor, which they figured was likely causing or contributing to my infertility. I also had PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, or as Dr. Kiltz calls it, plant-caused ovarian syndrome. I had some other things going on. My husband was also infertile as well. So I mean, both sides were at play here, but I think those were the biggest things. And like I said, just literally starving. Like I had no idea how hungry I was until I came to carnivore. That was a huge eye opener.
For sure, it is so crazy. I mean, we came from different sides of the aisle there as far as weight. You were staying super lean. I was fighting a huge weight problem, but it was just so crazy to get in this thing and find out that malnourishment was actually the problem.
On both
You know,
sides.
yeah, on
Mm-hmm.
both sides. It's just that's so crazy to me. How that's well, I mean, and we both share a faith, and I really believe that this world is always 180 degrees out. The cat. It just seems like that every time. Every time you look at it, the thing
Mm-hmm.
that's supposed to be the answer is always usually the catalyst to the disease.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
and it's incredible.
Mhm.
It's I don't know. That's been one of the biggest shockers for me on Carnivore 2 for sure, is to get that through your head because it takes a little while to shift your thinking. you
It
know,
does. It does. And I like that you mentioned that we come from different sides of the aisle because most people would look at a physique like what I had pre-carnivore, I will say, pre-carnivore, pre whatever. And they would be like, "Oh, that person is so healthy because like I looked healthy. I looked strong. I had, like great muscle composition and, lots of endurance. And, I was a high performance athlete in that respect. But you don't think that someone like that is ever wrestling with a disordered way of eating, ever malnourished, ever missing a meal. You know, like you don't think about those things. You just see what is posted on social media and think, ah, yeah, that person's got this down pat. And I think it's interesting because, like you said, on your side of the aisle, you were in the same boat that I was in, but just a completely different circumstance, like completely different external look. So, can you talk a little bit about your story, Todd?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely I've struggled with weight since as long as I can remember. I mean, since I was a kid. And, I was 600 pounds when I was 14 years old. And that was pretty much when I found that out, because in my head, I thought I was always telling myself I was probably 350, 400 pounds. And then a trip to the country vet with the dog when I got on the horse scale with the dog and I found out how big I was. It was a real shocker,
On the horse scale.
Yeah, I had to because we had a dog. Her name was Honeycomb. She was a Great Dane. She got sick, and they needed to weigh her to treat her, and she wouldn't stay on the scale. So I had to put her on I had to hold her up on the scale, and the scale was way over 600 pounds with me and her. And I was like, oh boy, I hope she weighs a lot.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and then I had to get back on there so they could deduct my weight, and it was 595 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
And I was 14, and that was that was I think if there was ever a start of trauma in my life, it was that day. Seeing that number, I was like, oh my gosh, because in that at that time, scales only went up to 350 pounds. So I thought, oh, maybe I'm 360, and yeah, that was huge.
Wow.
And so I just started that pretty much from that day started just a whirlwind of restrictive eating diets from there on out. It was always just fighting it. And I can relate to what you're saying because the lightest I ever got as an adult was 337 pounds. And I didn't eat for 17 months when I was doing that. I think I was 25 or 26 years old when I did that. But when I got there, I was actually pretty fit. I'd been working out a lot. I was actually kind of built realistically. For me, I was in good shape. And I had never been more depressed and more sick and felt worse in my life. My eating was terrible. I was tired. I was miserable. And it was really quite the shock because I had assumed that if I got to that point that I was going to be happy. And I was actually more miserable than I had been ever before.
Yeah.
I was just fitter. So I was like, all right, well, clearly there's something wrong here, but that's why nourishment makes so much sense now. Then when I could see this difference, it's it's just quite incredible, and I can't believe how fast it works. I mean, it just goes to show you that the system and the beautifully designed blueprint that God put together for us is so incredible if we just do what we're supposed to do,
Yeah.
It'll take care of itself. It's like we are a healing regenerative machine, if we just give it what we're supposed to give it.
Yeah. Well, and I relate to you in the sense that, like, even when you got down, into the 300s and you were in great shape for you were miserable. And I mean, yeah, I was in great shape, but I was very miserable, very, very miserable. Most people don't know. And at that time, I wasn't a believer either. I was worshiping vanity. That was a part of my problem. But I was like chronically depressed and often suicidal thoughts, just really dark, like very, very dark. And had I known then what I know now, I mean, I would probably have done things differently. But at this time, that's kind of just where the chips landed. And I mean, I had to go through that in order to understand what I needed to do to move forward. And I mean, like I said, you'll probably hear, the viewers will probably hear my little guy making sounds on this call. I would do it all over again 100 times if it meant, having the same outcome. I would not trade what I'm doing for anything else right now. Like, it just feels so good. I feel so satiated. I'm currently doing Lion Diet, which I never thought I would be able to do. And I didn't know I could even feel better on Carnivore.
Right.
Like, I thought I felt amazing on Carnivore. And then I started doing Lion, and I'm like, now I feel even better. So, have you ever done lion, Todd?
I did. I did lion for 90 days. I
Uh-huh.
didn't. I didn't feel different, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But I felt a little bit worse.
Ooh.
But that was because I wasn't having the egg yolks, and for my low testosterone, the
Mhm.
egg yolks were so pertinent. Now I'm basically doing lion right now for the most part. Like today, today out of all the days that I say that, I had some shrimp today, which I don't even know if it's online. I don't think it is, but it was just because I'm starting to fast actually right now, and I realized I was running out of time, and there's a new store that opened up down the road, and they have pre-made brisket and shrimp, and I was like, all right, I'm going to try both of
Ooh.
those,
How was
and
the
they're
brisket?
it's really good. They do a great job. They smoke it. They're local. It's all local Montana beef. Really
Yeah.
good stuff. And
Very
so, but for the most part, all I eat now is beef. I don't even salt it anymore. But I'm just eating beef and egg yolks. But right now I'm eating 54 egg yolks a day for
Wow,
the
54.
well, but I fast 7 days every other week. I fast, so I eat
Right.
for 7 days. I fast for 7 days. So I'm purposely trying to eat 54 so that it kind of balances out on the days that I'm not eating, and
Right.
it's making a great difference. And so I really think lion would be great as long as but I have to add egg yolks to it right now. I don't know how long that's going to last, but the egg yolks make that DHEA really makes quite the difference.
I bet it does. This is the worst question ever, but have you calculated the calories on that? I would be so
Oh
curious.
yeah, it's what is it? So it's basically 54 egg yolks a day is about 4,200 calories.
Wow,
Yeah.
so that plus your beef and whatever
Yeah,
else.
I only do about a pound of beef. So literally I just drink, people are like, that's just so many egg yolks. It's really not. In a glass, it's like I have a glass, it's about that big around, and it fills up, it's probably 12 ounces for eight egg or 18 egg yolks. And
Okay.
so I do that 3 times a day, and that's 54. And so
Okay.
I really think of them as like a workout shake or something,
Oh
you know?
yeah.
Because I just put 18 of them in a glass and I just down them. It takes 10 seconds to drink them. And then I just do that 3 times a day. And then I feel like I do an OMAD where I eat about a pound of beef and then I do 3 protein shakes, is kind of how I look at it.
Oh, okay. I like it.
Yeah. And it's easy. They go down good, but they just, I'm putting a lot of lean muscle on doing that. I'm feeling exponentially hormonally better. I can tell doing that, just stronger. And
Yeah.
it makes the fat makes it really easy to go into a 7 day fast if I can
Yeah,
get
I
it
bet
down.
it does. I bet it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. I'm going to
Sorry,
pop
go
up
ahead.
I found a picture. This was when I was 25 when I did that diet. I
Oh,
got, that was about as fit as I ever was as a grown man, but I was so suicidally depressed in that picture. It wasn't even funny.
aw.
And so I just remember that, and I'm like, that was not the cure. you know, I was thinner and I was muscular, but I was sick as a dog, and I was starving and always just fighting depression, anxiety, and
Yeah.
it was terrible.
Yeah.
And so,
It's not worth it.
no,
Honestly, we've talked about this in the steak and butter gang where when people get lean, they get mean.
yeah,
And that was definitely me. I like when I was lean, I was mean because I was hungry. I
right,
get hangry. I still get hangry, but it's not
for
as
sure,
severe. I recognize it now. I'm like, oh no, I need to eat because I'm hungry. Also I'm breastfeeding, so I need to make sure that I eat enough because with Lion and with Carnivore, this is the first time where I've found that I can potentially undereat, and
for sure.
I've never had that problem before. Like my friends could attest to this. When we would go to when I lived in Canada, I've lived all over Canada, but I specifically lived just south of Calgary. There was a barbecue place that I used to go to. What was it called? Oh, shout out Hayden Block, smoking whiskey. It was my favorite place to go. And the owner of that place actually came to Texas. He traveled to every barbecue place that was famous in Texas, learned everything he could, went back to Canada, and then, no offense, Texas, he did it better. like, and for me to say that, like, I mean, I've eaten a lot of barbecue, and like, I still think about the barbecue there. Like, that's how good it is. They make all their sauce in house. They make everything in house. It's fantastic. But we would go there, and I myself alone would order like 3 pounds of meat and eat it all by myself in one sitting, plus all the carbs and the sides and, whatever else was I ordered. I would eat all of it, and then I would leave there full, content. I'd be nice for a couple of days because my body was getting what it needed, and then I'd be right back to wanting to eat like that again. And so I kind of, part of my brain wishes that I would have recognized how hungry I was when all of that was going on, but it wasn't something that I ever thought about. Yeah. Can we talk about the food pyramid?
Oh, absolutely.
Can we
I'll
share
pull
that?
it out.
Can we share that clip?
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Let me pull that up.
Nice to see you, Tim. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Josephine. Hi, Darlene. Oh, so cool. Hello, Beth. Oh, and Beth is in Texas. Hello, Texan. Very cool.
All right, let me share that with audio.
If you guys haven't seen this clip, feel free to comment in the chat your thoughts on it.
All right. I'm going to try to, this is as big as it looks like it'll get. Oh, why is it not playing? It plays, but
it says Instagram is muted at the top on your.
Oh, really? There. Oh, it is muted. Very good. A good eye.
Who is this?
My name isn't important. What matters is that the answer is in the pyramid.
The pyramid? That's ancient stuff you're talking about. Are you sure? Bring up the pyramid.
What is it? What is it for?
We built the pyramid a long time ago to illustrate how much people should eat of the 4 basic food groups. Sir, we abandoned the pyramid when Michelle Obama got involved. The pyramid doesn't work. We've already tried it.
It's upside down.
What?
Sir, the pyramid is upside down.
Turn the pyramid upside down. You can't be serious. That would put butter and fat at the top of the damn food pyramid! This is not FDA approved! It's dinner time on the East Coast in 10 minutes. Now do it! Sir, we've got a match.
Nutrition is stabilizing.
We've got a well-balanced vaccine, sir. Get the president on the phone. Tell him to have some steak with his butter.
Exactly. And that's what that's what I keep finding out. It's so funny, right? Because all this time, calorie restrictive eating, calories in, calories out, that whole model, obesity being, the cause of all these diseases. And you find out, no, it's actually just a symptom, just like everything else. Everything's 180 degrees out. We've been under eating. We've been, avoiding the things that are making us healthy, that are supposed to make us healthy. And we've been substituting it and we're causing our own problems. It's incredible.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It blows my mind to think that the food pyramid was created and designed based off of a theory, most likely, and that people still follow it. I mean, I don't want to speak for all medical doctors and practitioners because there are a lot of great ones out there, but a lot of them had a very short training on nutrition and they don't understand how important nutrition's role is in the human body. Even nutritionists, and I mean that's what they're trained to do, but they don't recognize that who owns their training institutions is right. Who controls what information they learn. And I mean, to me, and I'm not trying to sound like a tinfoil hat person, but I'm going to put mine on. It sounds like a very influential place because it's very indoctrinating. When you spend 8 hours a day, 5 days a week in a school, you're learning exactly what they want you to learn, not what you need to learn, right. Not things that benefit you. Do you have any perspective on that, Todd?
Oh, I have a lot. Whether it'll get us demonetized and kicked off YouTube, I don't know.
Oh, well, let's hope it doesn't do that. But
Oh no, I'm just joking. I don't care at all, even if it does. But no, I mean exactly. If you look at the CIA and stuff that created programs to brainwash people, it's not a whole lot different than going to school for 8 hours a day,
correct.
being isolated from family, from community, from truth, and being told what to taught, being told what to think, how to act, how to feel about things, how to stand in line.
Mhm. Yeah.
It is programming. It is
Mhm.
absolute programming by the state. I
Mhm.
heard a pastor once say that church was supposed to be the public school system. That's what God had in mind. Well, church was where you get your wisdom and your knowledge,
Yeah.
not government institutions. And I completely agree with that because, I mean, look what comes out of these colleges. For the love of God, like I could not imagine, anything being worse than coming out of one of these colleges. I mean, parents are losing their kids by the time they go through college. They're coming back completely different people, and
Yeah.
the world is not better off for it by
No.
any means.
No. Correct.
So
Correct. And I agree with you. I think there has been too much government reach and not enough God reach. I
for
think
sure,
God was removed from the school system. He was removed from any possible potential place of influence. And I mean, the statistics are true for uh, families that have children that they take to church. Most of those kids have already made the decision by the time they're in their mid-teens whether or not they're going to continue subconsciously or otherwise, whether they will continue to go to church after they leave their parents' home. And to me, that's kind of sad because it means to me that it's not the message isn't getting home to people.
right,
People don't have the fear, and when I say fear, I mean proper respect
right.
and reverence for our Lord. And I mean, I'm still learning this. Like I said, I'm a new believer, only a new believer since January 4th, 2021. But I can tell you, he's been the answer to all of my problems, every single one,
For
every
sure.
single problem I've ever had.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I was blessed to be, in a Christian family for sure, but I can tell you things got real when things hit rock bottom, you know, and that, I've come to actually really enjoy that. I mean, I love Jordan Peterson's take on it, that
Hmm.
that is the purpose. I heard, I think it was, F.F. Bosworth said that sometimes miraculous miracles rob us from kind of shortchange us from the struggle a little bit sometimes because you learn so much and you get so strong kind of in the faith walk through
Right,
those things.
right.
And I'll tell you what, 3 years ago I wouldn't agreed, but now on this side of it, I definitely agree because your faith is so much stronger, and your relationship is so much stronger. And that is what we're here to do. I mean, I love Jordan Peterson says that all the time. We're not here to be comfortable. We're here to have an adventure. And those struggles are the adventure, right? They are those pursuits of truth and meaning to find, a relationship and a trust with God
Yeah.
to see our inheritance and recognize our authority is what it's all about, I think, for
Yeah.
sure.
I really do pray that he finds the love of the Lord because I mean he's been the pinnacle for most young men to look to learn what
Oh,
being
he did. He got saved.
what
Yeah.
when
Oh, you didn't know that?
no
Yeah, he's saved now for sure.
oh
Yeah.
I
No,
had no idea I had
no,
no idea.
oh yeah, him and his wife and his daughter too. Yeah,
What
so
why
yeah,
did I miss all this?
it was a couple years ago because his wife had cancer,
Yeah, I
and
remember
Jordan Peterson was coming off of those the
the medication.
antidepressant medication, and his wife and daughter, I think just they're all. I God had a plan. And he brought them all to their knees, and he is very much saved now.
Oh, hmm. I feel like
Yeah.
this is new information.
Yeah, I've known that for I'd say about a year and a half or something.
Oh, wow. Okay,
So,
well, this is new information for me. That's
yeah,
cool. Good.
it's pretty awesome, and that's why he was even going in on Elon Musk the other day about God. And
I need to. What interview is this? I need to watch this.
Jordan Peterson and Elon Musk had an interview, and he was going in on Jordan Peterson about God and meaning and carnivore. I mean, everything. It was great.
Oh, interesting. And I think I saw a few weeks ago Elon Musk tweeted out or something, or X'd out something about how he had steak and eggs for breakfast and he felt like $1 million or something like that.
Exactly. That was Jordan Peterson because he's got back problems.
Right.
And Jordan Peterson said Tammy cured her back problems, his wife, by on the carnivore diet. Actually, lion diet, I think.
Oh.
And he goes, well, I think this is going to take surgery. And Jordan Peterson's like, I think you should try lion diet before you have surgery. And so, yeah, they had a little exchange there back and forth. It was pretty funny.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, Elon's.
I'm definitely going to have to watch that.
For sure. But yeah, and I mean, I agree. I think Jordan Peterson has, especially on the grace side of things, he's got to have more relationship with God, but I think that's definitely growing. There's clearly a calling on his life.
Oh, huge calling.
Yeah, huge.
Calling.
And so I think he's going to see it because, for so long he talked the Bible in metaphors, that the Bible was always a metaphor. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, but there's a very literal part to it that he's missing, the relationship and the very literal part that he needs to grasp too. He's got a fantastic, and I think he's right. I don't think he's wrong on the metaphors too. I think the metaphors are all there, but he's missing the relationship and the very literal parts.
He's missing the meat.
He is very much so. He's just stuck in the intellectual, and I don't know, but I think he's seeing it there. He's too genuine of a person, I think, to not get there. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. Because I think, man, as brilliant as that guy is, what would he be like with the discerning of the Holy Spirit? That'd be incredible. So I think it's coming. It'd be really fun to see.
Well, definitely keep praying about it then.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, what an absolute warrior for God he'd be,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, well, and men are considered warriors for God. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to that sermon that I sent you yesterday, but it was talking about the importance and intrinsic differences on gender roles, obviously. And they're not meant to be the same, but they're meant to be complementary, which makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. And it's not this anything you can do, I can do better. It's like anything you can do, I don't need to do because it's your role, and anything I can do, you don't need to do because it's my role. And I know that that's a really contentious discussion for a lot of people right now. It's a really hot topic, but I just think that God's design is not for our condemnation, but for our sanctification. And I mean, he created us to be complementary, like I said, and I think that we need to kind of get back to that. And I think that's why I enjoyed listening to Jordan so much in the beginning, because he was calling boys to be men. He was not, weak and soft bellied about it. He was like, no, if you want to get a good catch of a woman, you need to be a man. Like, women are not attracted to weak men. And that's what we have right now, is a society of weak men.
Right. 100%. And you see it every day. And it's so bad. I see it in the workforce. I'm in construction, and right now it's so hard to find anybody that's competent, capable, reliable, that takes any kind of seriousness or pride in their work. And it's because they're not taking on any kind of responsibility. They don't have families, that they're not taking any kind of leadership role to provide for a family or a wife, and so they're not taking their job serious. That's what this world is missing, is people that came to work with drive because they weren't working for themselves, they're working for their family.
Correct.
And I don't see that anymore, and it's just falling apart, right? And that's why everything costs so much, because nobody's doing their part right now, or very, very few people are doing their part.
Yeah. Well, and it's too easy to get someone else to do it, and for less money, like, I'm not knocking people who have done this, but when you ship all of your manufacturing stuff overseas, because it's costs you $1 million less and doesn't hurt your bottom line as much, then all of those jobs that would be available to people here in the US or North America or wherever are no longer available. And that's a problem, because now you've got men who aren't working, and men need a purpose. If they're married, they need to provide for their family, and they need to work to provide for their family. So if they're not able to work to provide for their family, then what happens?
Right. Oh, for sure. And I mean, it is a double-edged sword that way too, but it's definitely, the nuclear family is under attack, right?
100%. 100%.
And that is
the Garden of Eden.
For sure. And it will be, that is the downfall of civilization and morals, right? If that collapses. And that's why they're going after it so hard.
Yeah.
And right now, but with with those roles, the actual gender roles being reversed, and this struggle with power, it's really messing things up. Where, there's a bunch of women that are trying to take up men's roles. There's a bunch, masculinity all of a sudden is toxic and terrible and all these nonsensical things. And we have a bunch of people that are in roles, men will never find meaning and purpose if they're not doing their role. And
Sure.
Women are never going to find contentment, and they're not going to respect their men if they're filling their role.
Correct.
And so this keeps going on over and over and over again, which is tearing apart the nuclear family. And if you don't have that, then men don't have anything to work for. Nobody has anything to step up for, to be accountable for, because we have to serve things bigger than ourselves, which is our family.
Correct.
And God.
Yes. God first, then family.
Yeah, God and family in our community. And if you don't have that, what are you doing? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So. It saddens me to think that this is the direction that things are going right now, because nothing good has come from this yet. And I don't think that anything good is going to come from this, because if we are not in our divinely appointed roles, like you said, we are going against the grain, and men are to provide and protect. And it doesn't mean that women can't be warriors or aren't warriors, but we're just a different type of warrior.
Right.
Like, we're more warriors than warriors. and that's not helpful. Like, I know without a shadow of a doubt that my husband would lay his life down for our family. I have no question about that whatsoever.
Right.
I would do the same thing, but his role is to lay his life down first for our family.
Right.
And I just think that that's a missing piece for a lot of people. And I love that you mentioned that as well, because I used to be a feminist before I was saved. And I mean, I still have to work through that. I'm still going through the sanctification of that. But I was very much all about what can I do, and like anything a man can do, I could do. And I mean, I worked in the oil fields, like in the most dangerous unit we had. I was on it. And like, I just never thought twice about it, kind of thing. I was just like, oh, if a man can do it, I can do it. And it's like, yeah, but should I be doing it? Is it the best for me to be doing it? Probably not. Was I happy doing it? Yeah, because I got to be outside all the time. I loved it. But was it the best role for me? Probably not. Now that I have this beautiful blessing, my little son, I cannot imagine ever not being in this role that I'm in. I cannot imagine not being a mother to him, not being a wife to my husband. Like, I just can't imagine my life not being where it is right now. But like I said, I think I had to make those poor decisions, and God had to use my poor decision making to get me to the place where I could see it, because I'm one of those people who's kind of on the extremes. Like, I have to have, and it used to be this way. It's not so much now, praise the Lord, but I used to have to hit rock bottom every single time in order for me to be like, something needs to change,
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of people learn the hard way, and I'm one of those people. I still sometimes have to learn the hard way, but I'm trying to be more humble so I don't have to learn as hard every time, because it hurts. Hurts.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think once you really hit rock bottom and you come back from that and you kind of gain your bearings and you understand what's going on a little bit, I think you get over that too. But yeah, it took me about 38 years to get that lesson too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah. But
gosh.
you know, I don't know. It's like you said earlier, I wouldn't trade it though. I've thought back about it a lot, and I used to think that this was I don't know, kind of a wasted time in my life struggling with all this stuff. And now I look back and I'm like, oh, actually, this is what my life, this is what is creating meaning out of my life. This was the purpose,
Yeah.
and now I see that. So yeah, no, it's that part is pretty profound actually. And I think that's why none of Jesus's disciples exactly had a easy untethered past, because people have to go through things, and that's kind of the purpose. Kind of got to get roughed up a little bit.
Yeah,
But,
well, and I like what Josephine is saying in the chat here. She said, same, I love working outdoors now. 40 years later, I feel like my body is broken. So now I'm working on healing and figuring out what I will be able to do next. And I relate with this comment so deeply because it makes me wonder if I hadn't been building roads at 19 years old, would I have fractured my pelvis? Like if I hadn't been working in the oil patch, would I have gotten T-boned by a semi? Like all of these events, like, and I mean big events that happened in my life. I'm like, would these events have occurred if I was in my divinely appointed role then?
right.
Because I wasn't. I was not.
Right.
I mean, that's the deeper question.
For sure. Yeah. And, I don't think that, we can walk out of the will of God, and that kind of exposes us to some things, but we can also be restored, and God will use that to our good, which I see that happening quite a lot right now. That's why I do have a lot of faith and hope for these type of times where the world is turned upside down, because man, so many people are waking up, and I see, just as crazy as the world has gotten, I also see blessings and God working every bit as equal, and bringing things back around. I see it every day, because I mean, just in carnivore world here, it's a crazy how many people that I talk to that are looking for an answer, right? That you get to talk to now that I didn't get to talk to before, and it's all around us, right? So it's opening a lot of doors right now.
Yep, I agree with you. And I like that you use the term upside down. It's like the food pyramid. And then Tim says in the chat, John Harvey Kellogg is responsible for our food pyramid.
Right.
Do you know the story about Dr. Kellogg?
I do. Yeah, you can tell it for the audience anyway. You might not know it though.
Oh, I was going to say, I think you should tell it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Basically what was he? He was like a Quaker or something. I forget what his religion was, but he was a religious worksy zealot that what was he was trying to cure sexual immorality and masturbation or something, and so he created breakfast cereals with wheat because it ruins testosterone, it ruins hormones. And so this was one of those crazy religious worksy things that he was going to bestow on people to keep them moral, because God, he must have knew that God made a mistake when he gave us hormones, because, he was going to go ahead and work that out for God, because God really needed him to do his part in there. So just crazy stuff. I mean, that's one of the things that I never liked about dead works religions, is that it gets so complicated. And, so many people that I see, they say I was a Christian or whatever, and I'm not, because it always comes from dead works, that they're doing all this crazy stuff that comes from condemnation and guilt, and it's it reminds me of that guy for sure.
Yeah, well, and unfortunately that narrative is still preached today. Like when they are preaching, if you can call it preaching nowadays, with these short sermons, that's one of the things that they're tooting about, and I don't agree. I'm highly disagreeing with it.
No, it makes Jesus's finished work on the cross too small. If you disqualify him because, he saved everybody, but not if you have this problem or that problem, or whatever. It gets so ridiculous. It's like, that's why they're dead works. They're filthy rags. Your works, your idea, of what you're doing to complete that thing. Like, you were saved by grace and nothing else. Like,
Yeah.
nothing that you did, that you do. He already knew how flawed you were, how failed you were, how many times you were going to sin, all these things. You got to leave that alone. You got to put that at the cross. It's
Right.
pretty crazy.
Right. By grace through faith alone, in Christ alone, not faith plus. And, my husband gave me a really good analogy for looking at this, because I was trying to understand, like, the differences between it, because you know how sometimes certain things just take you a little while to kind of process
Yeah,
it. I guess.
100%.
It was one of those things where I was like, okay, but like, don't I still have to do stuff? I'm like, yeah, I mean, every day you're being sanctified. But he said, when it's faith plus something, that it's like basically what you're doing is you're spitting in Jesus's face and saying, well, your sacrifice on the cross wasn't enough.
Wasn't good enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't good enough for me. So I have to have that plus, this
Right.
backpack full of other crap.
Right. Isn't that just the pinnacle of arrogance, going, all right, well, Jesus, I know you died and you took on every disease and every sin and every sickness, and you literally went to hell and rose again. And I know you did all of that, but you're going to need that plus me to go ahead and have a good week this week and pray, 6 hours a day before it's covered, because you really need my part in there. I mean, it is so prideful, and it is literally making Jesus so small in your life. It's just ridiculous. And I know once you can let go of that. And the thing is there's a lot of people that say, oh, that's just giving people license to sin. And it's like, no. Real freedom, when you don't feel condemned anymore, and you're not living in shame anymore, and you're not, you're walking completely free. That's what looses addictions and those types of behaviors. That's what, because it changes your focus. I always love that repent is not just to say you're sorry. It's to actually turn directions. You stop looking at your old sin nature and you start looking at your grace and Savior nature. And you completely change your direction of focus, because that's what you're going to meditate your thoughts and your minds on. And that's what actually changes your heart,
Right. And the word says to meditate on what is good.
Right. Exactly. Instead of, that's what I always had a problem with diets and stuff, because it was always that example of, don't think of the big pink elephant in the room. Don't think of the big pink elephant in the room.
That's like what you're doing is thinking about the big pink elephant.
Right. Exactly. And that's why carnivore works. That's why, focusing on Jesus works, and meditating on the word. Those are the things that really transform your heart, your life, and that's, I don't know. I always find parallels of why carnivore works and why, to my faith. And that was one of the biggest things, is when you are just concentrating on what you're going to eat, instead of where my whole life used to be about what I wasn't going to eat,
Right. Well, and I think that brings us back to the discussion of what's more restrictive. And I use this analogy because, like I said, I'm a person who needs kind of like those more extreme, blatant examples. Is it more restrictive to have a disordered way of eating, or is it more restrictive to not be able to leave your house because you can't fit through the front door, or you can't get behind the wheel of a vehicle, or you can't climb a flight of stairs without being winded or feeling like you're going to vomit or pass out? What's more restrictive, being told that you'll never be able to have children, or having the option to choose, okay, like this year I want to try and have a baby? You know what I mean? Like, I think people need to really weigh in and check in with themselves and be like, okay, what is actually important to me? And I'm sure you experienced this too. Like, I mean, you're maintaining how many pounds lost now, and like your ability to get up off the floor now versus then. Like,
oh God, it's, in fact, yeah, I'm down a little over 300 pounds now in 20 months. But the crazy thing is that, now I'm lifting. And now when I try to go lift 300 pounds, I'm like, that's a whole lot of weight.
It's a lot of weight.
That is a whole lot of struggle there. And so I look back at it, and, to your point, it's funny that you brought that up, because that's literally our discussion tomorrow on 700 plus and counting is carnivore restrictive or free? That's the title of our topic, because I've been thinking about this a lot, and it really kicked in last week, because I was doing my first 7-day fast since I was back from Texas, because I got back from Texas and I had to do fireworks season And so I just didn't have time to eat. So I was only eating OMADs, which was not enough food to do a long fast on.
Right.
So I just, I was just kind of in the wild for a month while I got through fireworks season. And then I went back on
it's
it.
a whole season.
Yeah, exactly. It was only 4 weeks, but just get through that period. And so I did a 7-day fast. And this time things were different because I got my mobility back. I got my driver's license back. I was going back to the shop, I was in a different environment this time.
Yeah.
But it was fine. I was 5 days into the fast when I went to the company breakfast and everybody's eating muffins and pancakes and French toast and syrup and all this stuff. And I was even doing a dry fast that day and it didn't bother me. The whole time that I was doing it, I had to cook mom food, every day, twice a day. And it used to be hard to cook somebody else's food while you're on a 7-day fast because, you're making food,
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. And this time it just wasn't. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. There was no craving. There was no struggle at all. There was no struggle with energy. There was no struggle with sleep or getting up. Just everything had completely balanced out. And I'm like, this is so freeing to just be able to say, I'm going to go ahead and heal my body with autophagy this week and fast and not have any struggles. I mean, that was when I was like, I really am free from this. It really is, because then it kind of clicks. You're just like, this really is just a matter of time now because I have no eating disorders anymore. I have no malnourishment anymore. I have no deficits that I have to fix. This, this is healed, and I give carnivore too much credit. It started with being on my knees in prayer to God, but this worked, right? And so there was actually last week when I was doing that brought up this topic because I've had 3 friends now that are local around here that have been asking me how to start carnivore. And I sent one of them to SBG gang and stuff, but they asked me, they said, Todd, what are you eating right now? And I was like, now's not a good example because you're going to think I'm crazy if I tell you what I'm eating right now.
Yeah.
Because I'd have to tell you that I'm either not eating for 7 days at a time, or when I am eating, I'm drinking 54 raw egg yolks and eating a pound of red meat without any seasoning or salt on it and only drinking water.
Yeah.
And to you, that's going to sound insane and super extreme and restricting. But to me, it's the most freeing thing that I can ever imagine because I have so much strength and health and vitality back. I have life back in me, and it's given me all my options again. I have a future again that I didn't have before.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's so hard to tell people that unless they're here, because from their addictive side, when you're still hooked on sugar and you still have eating disorders and you're still malnourished, this sounds crazy where I'm at right now.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
I mean, on the subject of eating disorders or disordered eating, I would say, and you may agree with this or not, but I would say the majority of people, number one, don't realize or recognize that they're addicted. Number two, most of them would not openly recognize or realize that there is some disordered eating. Number three, most people probably don't recognize that they're malnourished.
Exactly.
And I mean, in a world full of hyper palatable, hyper accessible food, where we often make poor choices because we're unprepared, we're time is of the essence. We don't have time to do anything because our schedules are just so like on top of each other. There's no room for preparing those types of things. And then the third thing, I think, is that we're like we were talking about our divine roles. Like if we were in our divine roles, then that kind of would take care of that as well. If you're a person who's married or has a partner, I think that kind of helps with that, because then there's somebody at home who's able to do those things and provide those meals and those types of things. But I just want to talk about disordered eating for a little bit here, because like I made the statement about how I don't think many people would recognize that they're even addicted to sugar. And I say that because, I mean, I remember we went to a Friendsgiving last Thanksgiving, and I literally watched this woman. She was me before I found carnivore. She went up to the dessert table 7, 8 times. Had a plate, came back with a plate full of dessert each time, but there were certain things that she wanted to have in addition. Her husband didn't touch any of it. And like she kept going back for those certain things, but kept the other things on her plate like 6 or 7 times. And I was like, I don't think this person recognizes that they're like this pull that is happening to this sugary, high carb, hyper palatable, dopamine exciting food. And I mean, I never said anything because I did not have an ear to hear when I was wrestling with my sugar addiction, but I don't think she realized that she was addicted or is. I don't know where she's at with it nowadays, but it just kind of brought me back to that, and it kind of humbled me a little bit. Like, praise the Lord for bringing me to carnivore to help me heal that, because it took me about between 6 and 8 weeks of eating a lot and eating until I was Thanksgiving stuffed at every meal and having snacks in between to get to the point where I felt confident and ready to be like, I don't think I want sweetener tomorrow. Like, I think I'm going to try tomorrow not having it and just see how it goes. And then one day turned into 3, turned into a week. And I mean, here I am almost 2 years into this. And it would be about 15, 16 months with no sugar. I have had things that have stevia in it, like here and there kind of thing, but I don't enjoy the taste of it anymore. Whereas before, that was all I could think about.
Right.
But I was also relying on it to give me the dopamine hit, and as a distraction or an avoidant technique of dealing with whatever emotional things or mental things or spiritual things were going on. I was not turning to the Lord. I was turning to sugar because it was my idol.
Right.
And I don't think a lot of people would ever want to admit that, because it would take humility to admit that.
Well, it does. And also, that's the reason why this diet, or whatever you want to call it, carnivore, gets people so up in arms when they see you having results.
Mhm.
Because if it's working for you, and that might be right, then it shines a light on probably what some of their own problems are and their own addictions are.
Right.
And it sends them into a tailspin, and they get pretty defensive about it because, now by proxy or whatever, you are, or at least by example, you are they're kind of getting a little bit of a guilty feeling, or maybe things aren't so right with their diet that they think is right. Maybe that, to me, it's so obvious now. It's like, how much more information and how much more data do you need to know that sugar is an absolute poisonous, deadly drug?
100%. Yeah. Yep.
And everybody we pretty much know, I mean, 99.999% of the people in my life are addicted to it, are all addicted to sugar. And after getting free from all addictions, really, sugar was the worst one that I was addicted to.
Oh,
by
by
a long shot. Yeah.
By far. Yeah. Even in those lab studies that they do, rats will still choose the sugar over heroin.
Right.
And I
Exactly.
think both of them light up the dopamine centers the same way,
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah, exactly. Tim said sugar uses the same receptors as heroin.
it's true. But also your crash from sugar is very different than your crash from heroin, I would imagine. Not that I haven't tried heroin, and I don't.
Well, but the thing is that, I don't know about heroin either, but I would imagine that you don't function on it all day, every day, all day long like people do sugar.
No, yeah, no. Well, and then we wonder why we have an epidemic of diabetes and insulin resistance and infertility and chronic inflammation and Alzheimer's, dementia. Like there are so many things. People say money is the root of all evil. I think that's the start of it, but I think there's a huge root of sugar here.
Oh, there is, especially, I had no idea that anxiety and depression could be just hormones.
Mhm.
And, because it feels very spiritual, it feels very attached to your soul in a way,
Yep.
And when I saw that could just be hormones, I was like, I don't know. There's something very dark about that. It's messing with your spirit in a way. It's messing with your mind's eye in a way, and your connection to God in a way, to have you that hormonally screwed up.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And so I really think that ultimately, I think that is the big picture here. I think that's the the darker goal there. I think is to create that separation. Bill Gates. This was like 15 or 10 or 15 years ago. Bill Gates, there's a video of him on it. He was talking about how they identified like this. I don't know. I'm going to get the area of the brain wrong, but it was like they identified like the cerebral cortex or something lights up when you pray. And they found, well, listen to this. This is so crazy. This is absolutely crazy. But so they identified that the cerebral cortex lights up when you pray to God. And so Bill Gates created literally a vaccine and test trials. And he said, what this does is it stops that area of your brain from lighting up.
What?
When you pray, that way we can stop religious extremists from doing terrorist attacks.
Oh my goodness.
So they did it, no joke. So they did a test trial on it. And these people, a lot of them were even atheists, and they said, I can't explain it, but when we had that vaccine, I just feel like I lost connection with God.
I'm like, I'm going to have to ask my husband if he's looked into that.
Yeah, seriously, pull it up, because I remember watching it, the video on it, and it was crazy because they did a test trial, and people that had tried it said that they lost, and I can't remember if it was that they tried the vaccine or they had them on some sort of machine and they inhibited that part of the brain. But, I really believe that's our mind's eye. I believe that is our mind's eye area of the brain that kind of has a spiritual connection. But yeah, it was, I just remember seeing that. And then, in the Bible, well, not in the Bible, but in the book of Enoch, if you listen to it, when they talked about the angels coming down, one of them was the angel that gave them the knowledge of pharmakia, and they called it sorcery.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's interesting to me. All I'm saying is I think there's something with chemicals that evil's been trying to screw up our connection, our spiritual connection with God.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%, because if people are disconnected from their creator, they're so much more easily deceived,
manipulated,
all of those things.
Yeah.
And I did say this incorrectly, so thank you, agoraphobic carnivore. It's the love of money, not money.
Yeah, the love of money.
I definitely know I said that wrong, so thank you for
for sure.
I appreciate that. But yeah, I never heard about this. I just found a link. It's on YouTube, but it's like 4 minutes long, so I'll have to see if I can find it.
Yeah, check it out, because I remember it was like 5 or more years ago even I was watching that video on that, and it blew my mind. But I was like, that is so evil, but it makes sense,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, and who is this guy anyway? You know what I mean? Like, right. Who is he?
I know. I know. I got in trouble on one of my videos because I was I don't know, I made a comment and said, why is it that good people, why is it that Bill Gates can't get butt cancer or something? Why is it always like good people and these guys get to just live through all this debauchery? It's like crazy. Yeah.
I just pasted it in the chat here as well.
Oh, perfect.
If this is the correct video, but I just pasted it in the chat just in case.
That's awesome.
And I haven't finished going through the book of Enoch, but I think it's very interesting because he was the one who was like raptured, right? Like,
yeah. God just took him. He never experienced death. And also, it's not, the book of Enoch is not a canonized book of the Bible, but it was agreed upon by the priests that were canonizing the books of the Bible that it was a historically accurate document. It just wasn't, God didn't say to write it. That's the only difference there. That's why they didn't put it in there. They said it wasn't ordained by God to be written. Or the other books of the Bible were, so they kept the book of Enoch out. However, to me, I've always said this, it just makes so much sense. I believe that the flood, I believe when the angels laid with the daughters of man and created the Nephilim, Satan was trying to taint the original DNA seed of man.
Yeah. Corrupt
Yep.
the seed. Yeah.
Corrupt the seed, right? And that's what everything is happening today. That's what all the mRNA vaccines are about. That's why they're trying to put it in, they're trying to crossbreed all of our plants and ruin all the seeds of the plants, all life on Earth. They're trying to do it to plant life. They're trying to do it to our animals now with mRNA vaccines and human beings.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. This is the same old deceptive game that was happening at the beginning.
Yeah.
In the very beginning is evil trying to corrupt the very source of our life, which is our DNA,
Yep.
It's trying to corrupt that seed.
Yeah.
And so it's incredible.
Anything to damage God's design, like anything to destroy his design.
Exactly.
You
Twist
know,
it. That's all you can do. Satan can't create anything, but he can try to destroy what was created. That's all he does.
Yeah, he's the ultimate victim. Victim. And what was his major reason for his downfall? Pride.
Right.
The same sin that we wrestle with every single day. And it's I think, the most difficult sin to overcome.
Right. And that's what he used for the very first sin against Eve, is he said, he said, you will surely not die. That's not, you'll become a God. You'll know what he knows.
Mm-hmm.
It's the very first sin.
Yeah.
Pride.
And I mean, because Satan is a created being, like, doesn't he recognize that God could just be like,
right. I know.
And just like pinch his head and that's it. He's done.
Right. I know, but it's this, I don't know. I gotta do some more research on it, but me and my brother have been listening some scriptures, and I think that there was a point actually for even Jesus, because what is that? I'm going to screw this up if I don't get it right, and it's going to bug me. When Jesus died on the cross and he became the begotten Son of God, there was something that even Jesus got exalted there through that sacrifice. Even Jesus gained a level of authority there, right? Which is so crazy. I got to go back and look at this. Me and my brother have been studying it.
I'm like, do you want me to call my husband in on this? In on this, because he's like, he studies the word, and like, I learned so much.
Well, for sure. Well, once I get my thoughts straight, me and my brother have got it. We were going over this about a month ago, but there's something just in my spirit. There's something there, and it was funny because it hit both of me and my brother at the same time.
Oh wow!
So we got to talk about it. But when he became the begotten Son, that I feel that there was even a purpose for even Jesus to gain extra authority and an extra high place by going through that sacrifice. That even that was part of the meaning of all this that we've gone through.
But I think he already was, because he's part of the Holy Trinity, right? Like,
well, he is, and that's what's really interesting. But no, it said that when he was crucified, he became the begotten Son. There's something in that begotten. I got to go back to it. We're gonna circle.
I wonder if it's because it was the fulfillment of all of the prophecies.
It is, but I think when it was fulfilled, I think he even got exalted to a new level. I think he gained certain, well, obviously it did too, but I think it gained certain authority and rights over us, because then when we become born again, we are a new creation in Christ. We're a new species that never existed before us and him. And there's a new authority there that he grabbed power of and hold of through that process that I think was very, I don't know, we got to come back to that, but there's something there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think I could say anything about that because I don't know enough about it to.
It's really interesting, but I don't know.
Keep me posted on that.
I will, because it's really interesting, and because it's the first time that I've ever went, oh, even Jesus got exalted with this. Like even Jesus got more authority and got raised up on a higher, which kind of makes sense in a way. It doesn't, because he's already got infinite authority.
Mm-hmm.
But even that, there was something there, and there should be a giant blessing for that sacrifice, for that. And I don't know, there's something there. We're going to come back to it though. Well, it's just been on my mind a lot lately.
So interesting. Speaking of the flood, the fallen angels, the Nephilim, all of those things. Did you ever watch the documentary it's on YouTube? I think it's called Is Genesis History?
I did see that. Yeah.
Okay, super interesting because, and I see somebody commented about explaining the dinosaurs in the chat as well. There was another documentary I watched separate to this, and it talks specifically about all of the dinosaurs and the position in which all of their skeletons are found. And it's typically always with their necks and their heads in like a flipped back position, and that's due to asphyxiation.
Right.
From drowning. And I was like, oh, it like further proves it. And like, I'm like, and they say they've never been able to find the Ark. I think they've found the Ark. I really do think.
Oh, I thought they found it a long time ago. I thought it was in Turkey or whatever on that mountain.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of information is like shared about it, but nothing is confirmed. Or at least in my searches, I haven't.
Yeah, I thought they found it. I'll look. I'm pretty sure it was on some really tall mountain in Turkey that they found the Ark because it matched the dimensions
and the profile.
Yeah, and so I'm pretty sure, and it was under a whole bunch of ice, but it was rested on a high point on a mountain in Turkey. I thought.
I remember seeing a documentary that talked about that, and they kept like drilling and coring into the ice, but they never actually found it.
I thought they did. I thought they even went.
Did they not find it, or did they not find it?
Right, for sure, for sure. I mean, there's all sorts of crazy stuff. Like, I'm gonna forget that guy's name. I had to send it to Jeff because Jeff didn't believe me. But supposedly the Ark of the Covenant was found under Mount Calvary.
Oh, I heard about that.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember that guy's name now that found it. But there's videos on YouTube about it. But it just makes so much sense because, he supposedly found the blood DNA on the Ark mercy seat lid, and they took DNA, and the male side of the gene in the blood only had like one strand of DNA or something. The other one, the female side had 23, but the male side didn't, showing that it had a non-human father.
Oh, interesting. I'm like, you're going to have to send me that. Now I have to watch
that.
I'll
definitely pull it up. It's really interesting. I sent it to Jeff because Jeff thought I was crazy, but
yeah, send it to me, and because I would love to watch that. But yeah. I think they've found a lot of things, but they keep a lot of it hidden because if people knew the truth about God, then everything about their reality would have to shift. It's just like,
well, it's not controllable.
Exactly. But I mean, we have been told that we are on a spinning ball hurtling through the universe at how many millions or billions of miles an hour,
right?
And that we basically have no purpose here. We're just,
cells, clumps of cells.
Yeah, just clumps of cells. And I mean, that's a whole other discussion. But it really bugs me that people don't think that there's any inherent value in them. And it's like, God created you perfectly in his image, and you do have value. He values you.
It's because somebody with meaning, and somebody, if you believe that this isn't the end, if you believe that this is just the beginning, right? And what they can't take this from you, really. They can't take your life. It doesn't exist. Your life is only to be given. Like, nobody can take it from you because you live forever.
Yeah.
If you believe that, and you have meaning, and you believe in morals, I mean, there is no more dangerous people on the planet than those people. You can't be controlled, and boy, they don't like that. If you can't be sick and influenced and in fear, and you're not controllable. And that's why, of course, they would hide all those things. They don't want people having faith.
Yeah. Oh, I know, because it not only does it strengthen them, it gives them hope, and it gives them purpose. And then they don't have to rely on the government for things. They can rely on God for things, and it's God over everything.
For sure. 100%. But that's what I love about the overreach that's happening right now, is we're seeing that the world is upside down.
100%.
Yeah, everybody is seeing, and there's a natural longing. I mean, God's in the fabric of every living cell on this planet.
Yep.
So well, in this universe, really. But it's just, you're not going to get away from that. And when all the false gods and all the false securities are pulled away from you, like it's being pulled away from everybody right now, you're going to rely on only what's real. And people are crying out to that, and you see it everywhere. Everybody knows that everything's screwed up right now, and
Oh, of course.
yeah. And so it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing to watch. That's what makes me the most excited. And who knows, but if it is the end times, how lucky are we? I mean, this is the greatest time to be alive, for sure, to be on this planet.
Well, and the persecution that can be experienced. I mean, I don't want to be a human torch, like a human Roman candle,
Right.
like back in those days. But I mean, should the Lord call us to that, we need to be willing to be persecuted for our faith, and it brings him glory.
Well, and that's, starts here, starts every day, give him credit where credit is due, I think, but also just people, one thing that I find my brother talks about all the time, he's like, your carnivore stuff is kind of like evangelism in a way, because sick people need an answer, right? And he goes, healing was the, the saving gospel in the Bible, was the original evangelism, was the healing ministry. Yep. And I'm like, yeah, and that's kind of interesting, but very much just like your Christian walk. If you want to recruit people, or if you want to help people, you just got to be the example, and you got to bear fruit.
Correct.
And that's the same thing that I see in carnivore, and it's I don't know, the parallels are always kind of funny to me.
Yeah. I really enjoy seeing the fruit of the Spirit at work. And like, it's so interesting because you mentioned about like. This is kind of like a ministry, maybe not in those words, but I do see it that way. I will say, in the carnivore communities that I have plugged into, a huge percentage of them are often faith-based people.
For sure.
And that to me is even more encouraging. And even just like in the comments, look how many faith-based comments there are here. It's so beautiful to me and so encouraging to me to see these, warriors for Christ, these men. There are men in the chat. There are women too. But, like people who are willing to stand up for their faith and are willing to be persecuted for it. And I mean, I always find, and this is so interesting, but not interesting at the same time, I always find that anytime I post about God, the views are like, but if you post about anything else, anything that's like, prolifically sensitive, say something that's sexually immoral, your views are like this. And it's because we live in obviously a fallen world, and people don't want to have eyes for God. They want to have, they want to lust after the things that they want to lust after. But I just think it's so interesting, because even if it just touches one person, even if our conversation today only plants the seed, or sows the seed, or waters the seed, for one person, all of it to me, 100%.
Well, but, and like I say though, that is true a lot of times right now, but there's a day coming where people are going to need to hear this.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be reaching for it like it's, it's like water, and they're dehydrated. They're going to be on their knees. And that's what I'm saying. That's where I was. I didn't listen to a bunch of carnivore diet stuff or whatever till I was sick. And then I couldn't watch enough of it,
Yeah.
It was my lifeline. And you're looking to people that had fruit of this lifestyle, and it changed. It's hope, right? It's guide, So I don't know. I think that is why I love the overreach that's happening right now, and the wickedness that's kind of taken over, because people are now seeing that the government, vanity, money, it's all godless. It was all false gods. It was all a lie. There is no such thing as security. There's no police force or government or even military that's going to take care of you and save you from your problems, or save you from the evil.
Yeah.
That you have to get on your knees and have a relationship with God for that, for that peace. and people are looking for that. I mean,
Oh yeah, everyone's looking for peace nowadays, but most people are resistant to God. Obviously, our fallen flesh is resistant naturally to God, but once we surrender, wow, the changes that happen. I mean, like I said, the same thing about carnivore. If I had to go back and be saved again, I would go through all of the hell that I went through all over
Right.
again if it meant that he was still going to call me by name. And he knew me by name, just like he knows you by name.
for
He
sure.
knows us all by name.
Right.
He numbered our days before we were ever even a thought, before our
Yeah.
parents existed. I mean,
Yep. His sheep hear his voice, and he'll not lose one from his hand. You know.
amen. Amen. And he always leaves the 99 in search of the one.
Right.
And
For
I
sure.
mean, maybe you're the one. Maybe like the people who are listening to this, maybe you're the one. Maybe he's searching for you right now. And if you've ever had that calling, if you've ever heard that still small voice, it's one that you will always recognize it. It's so comforting to hear. And I mean, I say this because of the few times I've heard it. It's so comforting when I hear that voice, and I know it. I know it. And
For sure.
I mean, I heard it before I was a believer. Like, I remember when I was a single lady, I was trying to meet my future husband, and I wanted a husband. And I came across my husband's profile. We met online because that's the way people meet nowadays. And we met online. And before I even met him, I was looking through his pictures, and I got that little whisper that said, "He will be your husband." And I was looking at his picture, and I was like, I could see it. I didn't know the guy from Adam, but I could just visually, I was like, I could see it. And I mean, this October we'll have been married for 4 years. We've been together for over 5 years, and
It's awesome.
he is such a blessing to my life. And my husband is a man of God. He was not a believer when we met either, but he came to faith when I came to faith. Actually, he came to faith before I did, and like his story is unbelievable. I'll leave that for another time for him to share, but he leads our home. He leads our home. And I'm so grateful that, like I said, he's the one that would lay down his life for us. He shared this analogy with me the other day that he heard that I found was really helpful when it comes to families. And he said, so obviously Christ is like your shield. He is your shield. He is in front of you. And then it goes the husband and then the wife and then the children. And if you as the husband step out from behind Christ, if you start veering off, start getting sinful, start getting prideful, whatever, if you step out from behind Christ, not only are you now in the line of fire for all of the fiery darts from the enemy, you are now putting your family behind you because your family has to lead or follow where you lead.
Right.
And so, like, when I think about that, like, yes, submission is a big thing for me because it's very anti world. It's from the fall, like our women's inherent desire to usurp the power of their husbands. But like when he steps out and I have to follow him, if he screws up, he has to answer to God.
Right.
And I'm just like, I don't want that responsibility, right? Like if he's leading our home and I'm following him, like, yeah, I can voice things and be like, well, that's a good idea. But he has the final say at the end of the day of which direction we go. And my prayer is that he will always lead us in the direction of the Lord and not astray. But also that's between him and God. He has to have that walk. I can't control that. And so it just kind of was really helpful for me to hear that analogy, to be like, okay, so like, here's Christ and here's my husband. And as soon as he steps out and we're all behind him, like we're following his lead instead of Christ's lead.
Right.
I don't know if that's helpful for anybody else listening to this, but it was a very helpful analogy to me.
Oh, for sure. No. And I totally get that too. And it makes sense. I've always said that, I didn't realize how much men very much need something to sacrifice for. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think men are definitely built for that. Men are built to have that lead role because, I was the worst person in the world to myself until I got married. And then I couldn't be bad I couldn't make bad decisions that were going to harm my wife anymore. Right. And that was when I realized, like, oh, this is why men need to sacrifice to their families, because this is what keeps us from being self-destructive. Right.
Correct.
because otherwise we're just a self-destructive dumpster fire. At least I was. And so I can totally see that for sure.
Awesome. I've really enjoyed my conversation with you today, and I know we've talked about a lot of different things, Todd. And
For sure.
I would love to invite you to shamelessly plug what you're working on these days and how people can get in touch with you, where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. No worries. I am on YouTube under the Carnivore Cure. I'm on Instagram under the Carnivore Cure. I'm on X under Carnivore Cure because of uh, problems. You can only have so many characters there. But yeah, we do a podcast every Sunday. I try to do some live interviews. I have another live coming up with Carrie Mann and the Healing Humanity Gang next Saturday. We have a live stream 700 plus and counting down with the amazing Limitless Lindy and Michael. We're doing that tomorrow at 5 p.m. Mountain Time, and I have some future interviews coming up. We're going to start doing quite a few interviews and trying to put out more context. And then I'm going to probably start a little series here of, I don't know, you call it some tinfoil hat stuff, but basically my favorite things to talk about of basically how we're being attacked through our food, through our faith, through this woke society. And I'm going to start putting that together. So how about yourself, Rochelle? Where can people find you?
Awesome. I'm very active on Instagram at Real Life Carnivore. I have a website, reallifecarnivore.com. I have a Facebook page, Real Life Carnivore. I have a YouTube channel, Real Life Carnivore. There's the theme here. I've been working on a carnivore mom series, and I've been starting to find some carnivore dads out there. So I've been interviewing them, carnivore grandparents. Wow. I'm just really excited to share the information. No two families are the same. So I just wanted to give people hope that if you're considering a carnivore lifestyle for yourself and you're the mom of the family or the dad of the family and the rest of your family is not on board, I just want you to know that you can be successful to do carnivore, even if you're the only one in your home doing it. It might be a little more challenging, but these interviews are to offer you encouragement and maybe some ways to look at things or approach things that maybe you hadn't thought of before, to problem solve and to just help you working towards your goals, because there's nothing worse, in my opinion, than having a beautiful family that you absolutely love. You can't serve them because you have no energy, you have constant brain fog, you're living in chronic pain. You can't get off the couch or whatever the ailment is, whatever ails you. And so just sharing all of these stories and these testimonies, I find has been really helpful. People who have overcome 40 plus years of restrictive binge eating and like anorexia and bulimia compounded. Those are the things that I'm working on. Also, my son is crawling now officially. So my life is changing. I do one-on-one coaching, and you can also find Todd and I in the Steak and Butter Gang. Shameless plug. Shout out Bella. We love you. The Steak and Butter Gang is the place to be if you have questions about carnivore, how to get started, how to do things the right way. It is the best place to be, and community is what helped me get through all of the difficult times with carnivore. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we should do another one of these sometime about SBG and priming, just so people know, because we get so much, because really, there's I don't know, there in my estimation, there's a little bit of a jealous attack on priming right now, but it has been the most healing for so many people that I've seen. That people really do need to know about it,
Yeah, and I'm going to say it. It's not calories in, calories out.
That's a fact, which is the stupidest hypothesis that has ever existed. It's just there so that you can't point a finger at types of calories. Because if you can make a distinction between nutrition and poor nutrition, then the big food is in trouble.
Right. Because no two calories are the same. No two macros are the same.
Exactly. So 100%. Well, I sure appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on. That was an awesome chat. I loved it. And thank you guys all for joining us. We sure appreciate y'all. We love y'all, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.